70% of student pilots never finish and get their private pilot's license. But most of these student pilots don't fail flight training. They abandon it. There's really two main factors that contribute to a student pilot's downfall.
Engine instruments green, airspeed alive.
That magic feeling as you're moving down the runway and the nose wheel starts to float up a little bit, and then the hum of the engine as you soar off into the wild blue yonder. It is a beautiful thing to imagine, and you definitely have reason to be very excited for flight training, learning how to fly, and being a pilot. But those moments are few and far between. You need to have realistic expectations about what this process is going to look like. It's not all fun and games. It's not all flying and having fun. There's a ton of work that goes into it. For every hour in the sky, there's at least 2 or 3 hours on the ground, maybe more. And I'm not even talking about ground school. You should have ground school done, written exam completed, but still, you have planning, preparation to do before every flight, a lot of planning and prep. And after every flight, you need to debrief, you need to reflect on that flight and find takeaways and lessons from that flight. Seriously, 1 hour in the plane, get as much out of that flight time in your planning and prep and your debrief. If you're going into flight training anticipating just mostly flying and spending time in the plane, that's not a realistic expectation. You need to know a lot goes into it, and it's not necessarily fun all the time. The more work you plan for and put in on the ground, the better the flying experience is going to be. So what can you do on the ground? Just continuously looking at the weather, looking at the flight, reviewing the entire flight. Rehearse the entire flight you're going to have on the ground. And when you get done with that flight, replay it in your head. Chair flying is a tremendous recommendation that I have for any student pilot. Mental rehearsal on the ground. Rehearse that flight in your mind's eye. It will translate to the flight. Flying is incredibly difficult. You will be task saturated up there. You need to prepare before you get up in the plane. Second part of our expectations is recognizing how physically challenging flying is. I mean, it's as hard as anything. Learning how to ski or surf. It's incredibly hard controlling this airplane. Have you ever operated a manual transmission, stick shift? There's a little more going on than an automatic car, right? You got to think about a few different things and your mind starts to get overwhelmed. And eventually it becomes committed to muscle memory and it's easy, it's second nature. Well, in flying, there's a lot more going on. It's like that gap between the automatic and manual transmission car, but 10 times bigger. There's so much going on while you're up there in the plane. There's other planes flying around all over the place. You have to communicate either with the tower or with the other pilots on CTAF. There's so much going on. Just keeping the plane flat and level requires so much attention and physical skill. When you're landing the plane, the variables are huge. So there's a lot that you're going to have to learn and master how to control that plane. So don't think you're going to go out there and get it on the first try. Even the first dozen attempts. You're going to be doing rough, and that's okay. So just go in with the expectation that it's going to be very hard. You are going to get very frustrated. During my private pilot's license, I had maybe close to 200 landings before my check ride. You can bet that the first 50 to 100 were not satisfactory. Eventually, after 150 attempts, I started to develop a little more skill. But even still, if you've only landed a plane 200 times, you're probably not very good at it. I was able to perform the check ride in satisfactory standards and get my license, but I'm still consistently learning moving forward. Hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of attempts at learning to land a plane before you're really going to get that muscle memory dialed in, right? So how do you deal with this expectation? Just remember to have fun. The learning process is fun. Don't get frustrated by it. Talk to other people going through the same thing, because everyone struggles with it. Everyone. If someone tells you they got it on the first try, don't listen to them. Everyone struggles with it. And even the most expert pilots still struggle with it today. We all have good days, not so good days, and that's fine. And again, back to chair flying. You can improve your maneuvering skills through mental rehearsal on the ground. I'm serious. Chair flying. And then number 3, just to drive it home on these expectations, flying is mentally challenging. You will be task saturated. There's so much going on. When you're going into a flight lesson, you cannot have a big list of things you want to try to get done in the flight. Bring it down, just a couple of items you want to focus on for that flight and optimize for those. Get as much done on those subjects as possible, because there's so much going on. Maybe your lesson, you're going to learn how to tune a VOR and fly in relation to radials. It may seem like a simple concept on the ground. When you get up in the plane, you're trying to operate the aircraft and not stall and crash. You're trying to avoid traffic around you. You're trying to navigate the airspace and control the airplane. And 95% of your energy is going into controlling the plane. Now you've only got a tiny bit of cognitive space available to practice that VOR thing you thought you had understood on the ground. You're not going to have a lot of mental space to explore new concepts up there in the plane. You need to take care of as much of it on the ground as possible. It's tough to make the most out of every flight because flying itself is so challenging. Just go in with the expectation and know that you can overcome those challenges by preparing on the ground. So much prep. You can't be too prepared before going into a flight. So how do you avoid unrealistic expectations before going into flight training? Prototype. The simplest first way to prototype, discovery flight. Go to your flight school, book a discovery flight, any flight school. It doesn't have to be the one you want to be a student at. Any place in the whole country, you can do a discovery flight, get in the plane, go have some fun and see what it's like. See what it's like controlling the plane, sitting in the plane, being in a plane, just see what it's like. Also, when you're at an airport, interview people that are already in the process. Talk to those students, find out what their experience is like. Ask them, what did you experience that you weren't anticipating? How are things different than what you expected? Any advice you would give yourself, prior to flight training? Talk to those people. That's a way of prototyping. Would this experience actually be a good fit for me? So you can know before you commit to a $20,000 program. Prototype it before committing to it. I'm going to get my private pilot's license in 40 hours minimums, and it's only going to cost me $11,400, and I can get it done in 5 weeks. No. It's great to have ambitious goals, but the fact of the matter is this is a very difficult achievement that you're pursuing. And any financial constraints, any scheduling deadlines are just adding more stress on top of this already stressful process that you're about to embark on. eliminate as much stress as possible. Have extra money. Have twice as much money as you think you need setting aside. Have twice as much time as you think you need setting aside. So let's just break it down real quick, show you the numbers, show you the time, realistic numbers here. Okay. Part 61 flight school. 80 hours to get checkride ready at $190 an hour wet rental price. That's $15,200. 50 of those 80 hours are going to be dual instruction. That means your instructor is going to be sitting with you in the plane for 50 of those 80 hours. Instructor costs $75 an hour. 50 times 75, $3,750 for your instructor. Check ride's going to be $1,000. Miscellaneous items, insurance, headset, kneeboard, ground school, extra supplies, for flight, etc. Random things that are going to pop up that you didn't really expect. We'll say $1,500. Also, throw in a cushion of $5,000 for whatever that you didn't expect, you didn't anticipate. Your whole life's going to change. This is going to be, if you're working a full-time job simultaneously, you're going to be exhausted. You're going to be spending more money on food, going out to eat, travel expenses, driving to the airport. Throw in another $5,000 just to have an abundant budget. $26,450. And how much time is it going to take? For every hour in the sky, at least 2 hours on the ground. 80 hours to get check ride ready. That's going to be 160 hours on the ground, prepping, planning, etc. 160 hours on the ground plus 80 hours in the sky, that's 240 hours to get check ride ready. Figure out how much time you can devote to flight training per week. If you're working a full-time job, you're feeling ambitious, maybe you're going to do 20 hours a week on top of your full-time job. Sure, not a bad idea. Do it however you want. Quit your job and do full-time flight training as much as possible, or maybe you already work a couple jobs and have to support a family and you only have 5-10 hours a week. Whatever. Divide the number of hours by that total, 240 hours. If you do put in 20 hours a week, that's going to be 12 weeks to get check ride ready, assuming scheduling goes according to plan. And then the check ride is going to be a few weeks after that as well. Is it possible to get a private pilot's license for $11,000? Get it done in 21 days, nonstop flying? Yeah, it's possible. I just don't want anyone to go into this process with that expectation. It's hard enough as it is to get your license. Don't make it any harder than it needs to be. If you can secure $25,000, well, there you go. You're probably going to get your private pilot's license with no financial stress. And then you just use the money's not going to waste. You just had a cushion. You do not want to be at the end, towards the end of flight training, realize you need another $4,000 to complete this thing. I mean, that's most of the people that quit flight training right there. Ran out of money. If the flight training experience does not match up with your expectations, you will be demoralized. So how do we keep morale high during this process? Say what you want about Tony Robbins. He has some good lines. As he puts it, you can achieve any how with a big enough why. You can always find a way if you have your purpose defined. How can always be achieved. You can always figure it out. But you need to have the why. And that's hard work. It's hard to come up with your purpose. and to get aligned and to really feel why you're doing it. So if you're going to dive into this, you need to find out why are you diving into it. Because if you just say, I'll give it a shot, we'll see how it goes. Easy to be a statistic. If you want to see this through to the end and you want to complete that and you want to get your license, you need to know why you're doing it. And you're not going to come up with that answer on a YouTube video. And I'm sure there's tens of thousands of videos titled How to Find Your Purpose. YouTube's not where you find your purpose. You can't get your purpose from external sources. You got to go inside to find it. So you got to take some time, sit down, reflect, do what you need to do to really go inside and find your purpose for this whole thing. This process is hard, but it's worth it. I'm going to have my pilot's license the rest of my life. So I am proud of myself and I'm glad I accomplished it. I'll leave you with one quick story. I was chatting with a 77-year-old pilot while fueling his airplane. He was telling me all about how aviation has been good to him over the years, and I told him my ambitions to be a pilot. He told me about his 30-plus year career, and it was nice to chat with him. He went on to say, the biggest thing stopping people from success in this field is continuity. There will be no shortage of obstacles along the way. It's up to you to just keep going.